Good morning and welcome to Wisconsin Voices via Voice Radio on 8660 AM and 105.5 FM, WNOV. Today we actually got a serious topic to talk about. Our juvenile criminal justice system is kind of a mess, and we got huge disparities. And then we got juvenile youth being charged as adults. So we got some special guests here today. We got Sylvester Jackson. We got David Morrell. And David, why don't you introduce this young man?
I'm James Price.
Get closer to the mic, please.
I'm James Price.
So as many of you know, we got a 10-year-old being charged as adult in the criminal justice system right now. And as we know, data and statistics is that youth don't mature till they're like 20, 24, 25 years old, that their brain is not even developed. In most states, we're one of only 3 states that really doesn't address the youth incarceration and address the trauma and address that they don't have the ability, their minds are not at an adult level. So processing, and putting a juvenile in adult corrections really has some serious damage to the youth involved. I did some looking at statistics this morning, and we'll get into that. But what I really wanted to get into the people who are really on the ground doing the work and see the impact that it's having in their community and having an impact on the youth. So I'm going to let Sylvester go first. So Sylvester, you and I were talking about some issues yesterday and some struggles and some serious concerns that really the community, a lot in the community see these concerns, but, they need to know how that this is not just in their community. It's across the United States. So Sylvester, why don't you talk?
Right. My name is Sylvester Jackson. I'm the co-founder of the Believer for Change. And one of the things we do is focus on youth empowerment. And the incident in which we're speaking on with the young man, unfortunately shooting his mother, at the age of 10. And the law here since 96 make it mandatory for a 10-year-old kid, a child, to be charged as an adult. And when the incident unfolded, there were several of us gathered, and did a news conference. But because of sensitivity of the family, and being, respectful of them, we stepped back a little bit and let them, greet a moment. But what we wanted the community to know, it's not just about one family.
Correct.
It's about a community. It's about justice. It's about right and wrong. And when you want to take a 10-year-old child for the sole purpose of punishing them and turn them into an adult with a stroke of a pen, when your statistics shows that the front lobe of an individual does not even mature to the level of accountability until they 25, 26 years old, is not only wrong, it's barbaric. Because, at that age, we should, as a society, be trying to figure out what went wrong so that we can curve it in the future, so that we can address it in other homes to keep it from repeating itself. Instead, this country has begun so hypnotized and on prosecuting, like this country is living off prosecution of others. And to take a child that can't make no decision other than going and being judged by the system because of what they done as an adult. They can't drink, they can't smoke, they can't say who they want to live with at 10 years old. You can't sleep with nobody at 10. You can't make them decisions, but for the sole purpose of ruining their life, the system will go and take their life from them with a stroke of a pen and make them into an adult.
Well, and the one thing you think of, that child hasn't even reached puberty at this point. So, and as I looked at the stats, I looked at it in Wisconsin, the stats. So in 2022, waivers to adult court, of those that were waived, 79% were black. Only 4% were white, 13% was Hispanic, and 1% was Native American. And then we even look at the statistics for incarceration, confinement of youth. Again, 73% are black. You got 21% white, 5% Native, and 1% Asian. So when I looked at stats this morning, and I looked at even nationally, it averages 80% of those in confinement of youth are black.
That's a target.
Correct.
That's not a coincidence. And when you look at it, a lot of people be saying that the system is broken, but reality it's never been broken. It's doing exactly what it was created to do.
Right.
And that is to target, discriminate, and decarcerate and to humiliate a black race, by any means necessary to weaken, the black community from being a challenge at the polls to being a challenge, out in the community, with intelligence and stuff. So one of the things that I look at, mass incarceration wasn't stepped on by coincidence. It was plotted and planned and carried it out nationwide.
Nope, I tend to agree, because when you look at the stats again, black youth in Wisconsin are detained 19 more times than white youth are, and that's a national trend. That is not just in Wisconsin. So we have a huge issue and challenge for equity and inclusion, and there's a huge racial disparity across the United States on how the youth in the black and brown communities are treated than the youth in the white communities. So.
Well, when you have a community that's being silent, it perpetrates the violence and the inequality, unequal justice that's being rendered unto us. When we sit back saying ain't nothing we can do as a community, when we sit back and keep our mouth shut when they electing judges, when they're electing aldermen, when they're electing mayors and things of that nature, and we feel like we can't do anything, that was allowed the enemy, if you would, to continue to desecrate the black community. We have to learn to not just talk about it, but get up and do something about it. Get in action, get involved.
Right.
When you look at your child in the courtroom and the jury is all white, the DA is all white, the public defender is all white, look at your own self, because you are not in there being a part of that pool. You got to, vote, go out there and be pulled in that jury pool to be out there and voice your opinion about these cases, because until we do that, it's not going to change.
No, there needs to be, I know I've been part of some committees when I was at the state where there needs to be true understanding of the judges of the trauma that the youth have endured, the disparity of sentencing guidelines, because like you and I talked yesterday, there in one case it had a white child did the same thing as the black child, but the white child got off and the black child got incarcerated.
Right.
So that shouldn't be happening.
Well, I just witnessed that recently. 2 weeks ago, I was supporting one of our young youth. I'm sure it's a case that's very familiar in Milwaukee, with a young man that shot up at the Cinco de Mayo event and got shot up by the police. So he's one of our young youth. and we was there supporting him. And at the same time, it was a white gentleman on the same identical charges, discharging a firearm, endangering safety and stuff like that. And the gentleman was 58 years old. He was an average hunter. He never had a record, and neither did the young man. So the judge, Laura Carviello, I can't think of her last name, but I think it's Carviello, seen fit to get a white gentleman 2 years probation, and felt bad that he would not be able to hunt anymore. And at the hearing, once you convicted, you're no longer allowed to be around firearms. So technically, this gentleman is in violation of his probation the minute he walked out the courtroom, because she did not order him to turn over his firearms. So when he went home, he was around firearms, which made him in violation. Mm-hmm. So instead of sentencing the young man that day, where she would have to follow her own example with the white gentleman, she put his off 2 weeks. And the same exact charge, she gave him 2 years in, 3 years out, as suspended sentence, 1 year in house of correction, and 250 hours of community service. And she justified by saying he's a threat. She got to protect the community. Now, the white gentleman was not shooting off a gun. He was shooting off 2 guns. And a bullet is a bullet. And when you shoot a bullet, all it takes is 1 bullet to come down and injure or kill someone. So there was no need to try to separate the two as if they were 2 different crimes. But she literally did that and justified it by saying that he could have hit a lot of people that was out there at the Cinco de Mayo. Well, when you look at it, the white cat could have injured a lot of people that was sitting in their house watching TV, or his neighbor watering the grass. So this is the injustice that we're fighting. And if we're not going to get up and fight against it, then we really need to just stop talking about it.
Well, I think, in my opinion, and you guys could speak to it further, and if anybody has any questions, please call 444-52. What's the last 50? Sorry, something was in front of it. But I think there should be tracking the data by each judge and looking at the similarities in cases with the demographics to see how do they truly, operate, and how do they, what kind of sentences are given to people? Are they being looking at them correctly? Are they being inclusive to all the races? But I think once you get that data, you'll have a better understanding of who really is looking out for the youth and who's not. So I think, we do have to hold the judges accountable. We have to hold the DAs accountable. There's too much across the nation that there's no accountability. And then, like you said, so if you waited 2 weeks to give a sentence when you could have a sentence that day, that kind of concerns me, because the person's right there. You would have been able to give him the sentence there.
Well, that just showed me that she had no intention on being fair. If she had sentenced him, the young black man, that same day, she would have looked at, obviously racist by doing what she did 2 weeks later, when she just literally let this white guy go with just 2 years probation and no community service, and it seemed like she was ready to weep just because he was losing his hunting license. Well, this young man got shot multiple times, 13 to 17 times, and she didn't feel that was enough punishment. But she said out her mouth in the white guy situation that it's hurtful enough that you won't be able to hunt anymore. That's punishment enough for you. Now, how is that possible when this young man almost died? If that's not enough punishment for a person to get on the right track, what is? And then the thing what got me disturbed was the white gentleman was in there alone. No support, no family members, anything. We was in there in strong force every court day for this young man. And he walked in by himself, and the white guy walked out by himself. Yet she made such a distinction between the two. It's a crime in itself.
Yeah, but he wasn't by himself, right? He was on home court.
There you go.
On home court. And no matter how we look at things, race is going to always play a role here in America, especially in our judicial system. Okay, so how do we hold a judge accountable who is blatantly racist, right? Or we see disparities in the sentencing. What do we do? What can we do as a community, right?
Do me a favor, brother. Tell them who you are and
Oh, I'm
who you
sorry.
represent. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Let them know who they're listening
One
to.
day my voice will be famous, right?
It will. It already is.
Right now, I'm David Morrell. I am the Prison Outreach Director for Wisdom, Wisconsin, as well as the Prison Outreach Director for the NAACP here in Milwaukee. And I also have my own org called Milwaukee Bread.
What is Wisdom, Wisconsin?
It's an advocacy and legislative organization.
Okay.
They work on changing policies. And
what is bread?
Milwaukee Bread is something out of my heart. It's a mentorship, and I'm a motivational speaker, at least in the mirror. But I just seen a need for our children here in Milwaukee, and I didn't know about these fine organizations to point, so I started my own. And I just started trying to reach out to kids as I catch them.
And before you get back on your point, tap a little bit of your story so they know where you come from and what your passion comes from.
All right. I joined the gang when I was 13. And it was in that decision that affected the rest of my life to the point that I ended up receiving 75 years in the penitentiary. And I'm still serving a 75-year sentence now. I get off parole 2068. I did 28 years straight on a 75-year sentence. And by the grace of God, he's allowed me to come home. I wasn't supposed to be released until 2044. But because there was a change of mind and a change of heart, and God has a plan, he allowed me to be here now and in this conversation. And so racism, again, is going to always be here, and it's going to play a role. We got to find different ways to strategically attack that. We know that. The first thing that we have to do, and we thank God for a platform like this, we need the community. Mm-hmm. And the things that we're talking about, I've come to learn in this short time I've been home. I've been home almost 3 years, and I've been in this space for like 2. And I learned about power, right? And one power is money power, right? People who have money have power. They can make things change. Unfortunately, most of us don't have that power. There's another kind of power called people power. And this is something we all can accentuate. This is something we all can grab hold to. This is something we all need in order to have power. We need each other, right? There is power in numbers. And so everything that we're talking about, anything today, if it resonates with anyone listening, we need your help. We need your help. This is a call to arms. All right. So the things we're talking about in regards to this 10-year-old boy, what if it was your son? What if your child made the worst decision of their life? And they did something that is going to affect them for the rest of their life. That little boy will never be the same again. Mm-hmm. He'll never be the same, man. He don't know what he took. The one person who champions for us all the time, at least should, is our mothers.
Yep.
It's our mothers. No matter how old you get, no matter how much you mess up, your mama is always there for you.
Yep.
And he's going to learn that the hard way without one.
Yep.
And because of his actions, he doesn't have one.
Right.
And no one could ever take her place.
Yep.
That's a prison and a jail and a torture in and of itself. He's in hell in his mind for the rest of his life without the intervention of God, without the intervention of love. And that's what we're asking for now. A lot of people could be like, he killed his mother. Forget him. Throw away the key. I heard it before. He's a menace. We got to set an example. Black people said this to me, that we got to set an example on a 10-year-old child for shooting his mother. The only thing I heard when the young man and the young woman were telling this to me was trauma because of their experiences, their hurt, their disappointment in their children. I guarantee you his mother wouldn't want him to go through this. His mother wants him to get help. Love demands that he gets help, not the punishment that will come from an adult criminal justice system. How old were you when you got waived? Hold on, excuse me. Introduce yourself.
I'm James.
Get closer.
I'm James Price. I was 14 years old and received a life sentence. I was waived November 11th. February 2nd, 12th of 1992. Of 93, I was waived into an adult court and received a life sentence May 28th of 1993. And whenever you have a homicide charge, whether it's first degree, the mandatory sentence, no matter what the situation is, law deems that they can only give you life. But the difference in that is with a PED or without a PED. So it's like a fortunate and an unfortunate. I was fortunate enough to get a PED, which is a parole eligibility date, and say that I was will be able to see parole or even considered for release. And that's the thing about parole. It's just saying that they don't have to release you. But, you know, we can sit here and talk about, oh, well, parole. The first time that you come see parole, is saying that you're to a state of saying that you're able to be released or to be incarcerated, all that. But and I'll talk about that some other time. But it's just the 10-year-old to not even reach the age of puberty, to go in there at 10 and hold this young man to a standard and just throw him away to the system because the juvenile justice system said, you know what, we don't want to deal with it. When the juvenile justice system said we did not want to deal with that, it was already preordained what his sentence is going to be. Because if they're not going to give him a lesser charge, that young man is going to get a life sentence. How can a 10-year-old be able to fathom a life sentence when he ain't even understand the like, he don't even know what having a girlfriend means or all the perks about being a teen?
Yeah, I think he's facing 60 years now. I think they amended it to a first degree reckless homicide, if I'm correct. So he's facing 60 in the adult court, which theoretically he can do 60 straight.
And it's still, right. Yeah. And that's still a life bit. No matter if you get 40 years, life expectancy, like when you do the data on the life expectancy for survival in the penal system for men, period, you got a 40-year window. Mm-hmm. So how you do your time in that space, whether it's who knows about exercise, if you ain't around the right people that's valuing what you're doing, you're going to roll over in there.
Well, and studies show that youth that go into adult facilities are more likely to be sexually and physically abused and 36 times more likely to commit suicide than their adult counterparts. So we need to get that out there and get the people understand that because of their mindset, that is going to what's transpired. There's no treatment for this youth at 10 years old. It's basically going to be incarceration and basically
throw away.
Right.
That's the word. Throw away. So,
before we move on, and we got to take a commercial break.
I know.
And phone lines are open. I know there was a caller that had checked in, but the conversation was so heavy. 414-444-5250. Once again, it's 414-444-5250. I got a part, my brother. I've been knowing my brother here for some years, but I always call him by his handle. So, Brother Compton, what is your name again?
James.
Brother James. Can you let folks know, if you would, what organization you're affiliated with and the work that you do, which kind of,
I'm with 414 Life, so we do mentoring of a lot of the what they will say at risk. I'll just say youth in the city with disparities. Mm-hmm. I don't want to call some young man at risk. I would just say he has disparities and young men and women, and I'm gonna say that young men and women that's looking for some hope.
Right.
Yep.
And
it was in the auspice of at least initially high risk individuals as far as high risk gun violence. Yeah. So just to let folks know that is especially yours a situation that's
I'm actually a mediator. Yes. So when it comes to the work and a violence interrupter, good way to throw that in, brother. So when
we have to, because it validates the conversation.
Yeah. So when you have like them situations where a family is getting into it with another family, what we do is we try to catch it even before the police can get on it. If we can get ahead of it before that, we try to do that. And no matter what level that it's on, we're gonna try to get you on the level of before the police can. If it goes to where a crime happens, we're gonna try to catch you from the hospital level, or we out in the streets trying to engage you as far as on the outreach level. If we can't catch you there, is who are the parties or who are the people that we might know who might. Everybody knows somebody that knows somebody. So it's, hey man, how can we slow this down? How can we get in front of this? So everything is strategic on how we move out here. And it's basically to say, like, we don't want some young man and young woman being, just thrown into the penal system and just thrown into a system of saying, hey, go in there and figure it out.
Okay, so are we ready? Are we ready to go to the break?
We're going to catch you on the other side, inside of Be a Voice with Wisconsin Voices here on 860 WNOV, W293 CX 106.5 FM, Milwaukee.
We've got work to do. We need everybody, every person, every voter to show up. We have to help ourselves because there are energies that are coming to rob us of our future, of our opportunity, and potentially of our vote. We cannot take a break. We must show up in numbers. We must vote.
You're listening to Wisconsin Voices Be a Voice Radio. Follow us at BAWI Voice and learn more at wisconsinvoices.org.
Wisconsin Voices' 3 pillars: protecting democracy, teaching advocacy, building community.
50.8% of Wisconsin voters are female. Women drive Wisconsin elections. Free was born in 2016 as the Women of Expo needed space to lift each other up and address the unique pathways and issues women face related to incarceration. Formerly incarcerated and system-impacted women want you to exercise your right to vote. If you're a woman with a prior felony conviction but are no longer on community supervision, you are eligible to vote. Visit www.myvote.wi.gov to register today. If you are currently on felony probation, parole, or extended supervision in Wisconsin, please be a vote influencer. You can still share your experience, encourage folks to register to vote, drive them to the polls, and educate them on the candidate issues that are important to you. Freedom comes when we reclaim it. Participating in democracy is a vital part to have your voice heard and to influence change. Please visit www.expowisconsin.org and join the fight in Wisconsin against felony disenfranchisement.
You're listening to WNOV 860 and W293CX 106.5 Milwaukee.
You are now listening to Wisconsin Voices, Be a Voice Radio. Welcome back from the flip side. Again, you're on WNOV with Wisconsin Voices Be a Voice. We would love to have callers come in with questions, comments at 414-444-5250. I just want to say the views and opinions expressed in this program do not reflect those of Wisconsin Voices, but are those of the host and guests of this particular show. And their appearance on the program does not imply any endorsements or representation by Wisconsin Voices. So we thank you for listening to Be a Voice of Wisconsin. But we want to continue this much needed conversation. And during the break, we were having a talk about the trauma that youth before the age of 10 have. And when I looked at the numbers, youth under 10 have had 4 traumatic experiences before the age of 10.
Yeah.
So that is a powerful statement.
When you're looking at our community, each and every one of us sitting here today went the route we went due to trauma. You know, I take it, I always use myself because sometimes we allow our shameful past to hinder us from helping tomorrow's people. And I use my story as a bridge to finding hope. I grew up in a very disoriented family. I was sexually abused from the age of 7 to 13, and that trauma went untreated, up into my adulthood. And anything is not addressed going to manifest into full mental health, which I ended up going into the mental health hospital as a result of the trauma. And that's one of the things, that's why I do what I do with our organization. We address the trauma part of things because I have experience from both inside as a patient and outside as a certified mental health aide, because the things going on in these communities, look, if the older people having problems, what do we think going on with these young people? And the young people is the ones that's going to suffer the most because they the future. If we don't prepare them for tomorrow by addressing the trauma to get them to be whole mentally, spiritually, and physically, completely, then our tomorrow is bleak.
So I wanted to follow up on that and the trauma. And really, when I worked for the state of Wisconsin, I was actually, the secretary asked me to be on a committee with MPS. and it was in regards to truancy. And as I was part of this committee, and they had superintendents from our school, they're talking about truancy at high school, and it's basically the school to prison pipeline. And I was shocked by that nobody was talking, because they're tracking it from when they're in elementary school. So I brought it up to them. I said, okay, why are you waiting until they're in high school? You're tracking all this data from when they're in elementary school, and you're waiting in high school. You're part of the problem, because when you're seeing signs in elementary, why aren't you doing wraparound and getting them the service they need? Because you're helping this school to prison pipeline and just putting the blinders on like you don't see anything. So I think we need to hold, our schools more accountable, because they see those red flags pretty quickly and early. But then we need to look about wrapping around the family. It really truly takes a village to raise a child. And if we don't do that, our future of this country, they're the future leaders of this country. If we don't wrap around them and work and support them, as we were talking on break, we got all these organizations that want to do great work, but people want to stay in their silos. And the more we work in partnership, the more we make an impact, and the louder the voices are. So I'll let you continue. Oh, we got a caller?
Yes, indeed. 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. Caller, good morning to you and welcome.
Shalom, family. Hey, listening to the conversation and the specifics of the topic related to the discretion that is available to judges, district attorneys, law enforcement in general. It brings to mind CTR, the whole CRT, critical race theory, issue. But I'm wondering what the various organizations that are represented on the panel, what kind of research or work you've done to find out how to hold judges accountable. I heard one of the panelists mention that in the earlier part of the conversation, and I think that's a critical part. I believe that the law, from what I do understand about it, says that everyone is to be afforded equal protection and due process. And so when we think about equal protection, and then I look at the stories that y'all mentioned, the contrast between one, perpetrator of a crime or alleged perpetrator of a crime, and another, be it white and black, and the judge having discretion to allow one to get off and another one, they send them away. And if discretion is supposed to be impartial and non-biased, how do we end up with that as a result? Right? And then where do you go to argue against that type of, outcome, particularly in the government? So what are the steps, if you've researched any, that allow you to, fight against that?
Well, being one that actually, when I was incarcerated for the 10 years here in Wisconsin, one of the things I learned is to go learn the law that got me in the prison system. And upon learning that, I used that same law to turn it against those who was holding me in the prison system, and won and challenged the Seventh Circuit and overcame a ruling by the Western District. And the thing, what I want to point out is knowledge. Knowledge is the power. The more knowledge we have, for example, the 14th Amendment is part of the United States Constitution. It demands equal protection under the law. Now, every judge sit on a bench has an accountability themselves, and every judge on the bench is elected. And those who's not elected is appointed for a certain period of time, but we can hold them accountable by making sure those who stand out is not being, truly unbiased, then it's our duty to make sure they don't get reelected and get them out of the office, because that's the only power we have to, to regulate the judicial system in our community. A lot of time we run up and everybody flood our community when it's a presidential election. But in reality, the local elections is the most important elections that impacts us directly. And that's our mayor, our sheriff, our judges, our aldermen. So that's one of the things we must also understand, that the accountability starts at the polls.
A lot of judges don't run on. A lot of our judges run unopposed.
Right.
So how do we make sure that we got a different option? Right. See, a lot of times they get away with what they're doing because there's no way to remove them. There's nobody in line to take their place.
If I could add, whether the judges, and particularly in criminal or even civil court, if that judge is appointed or elected, when they get into the system, they have a playbook, if you will, that they are basically required to follow. So even if you encounter a situation where your rights have been violated, and you take it through the process, the judicial commission, all these various, agencies, if you will, or checkpoints for a judge, and then those checkpoints are corrupt, then where do you go? So the question for me becomes, how do you access, as you said, the elected officials who have the authority to be able to remove a judge through impeachment? Because that's it. From what I understand, whether it's a federal or a state judge, they can still be removed from the office if they violate your rights, right? But then when you got that judicial commission that is there, and basically that judicial commission is acting as a screening process before anything is even done to a judge, you have to really get to the governor or the attorney general. So, but the attorney general is typically in that same, fraternity, if you will, or representing the same legal profession. So that, to me, is where the problem lies, in that these people get into these offices and then they're not held accountable to the oath of office that they swear to, right? And how do you really hold a person accountable to the discretion, when discretion is rooted in your own personal preferences and prejudices that you grow up with, right? So, I mean, to think that a person can actually get in there and be unbiased and then see the outcome as you've all described. So I'm not saying that I know all the answers, but I've been encountering this thing, with the district attorney, fighting that for 12 years for my son's case. And although it's different, it is the same animal, because the animal is the one that has this unbridled discretion that can affect your life. And so what we have to learn to do is, how do we tap into the state representatives that and the state senators, and then our federal representatives and our federal senators, and then make them, as you said, make them take these issues and bring them before the Congress or before the legislature to have the laws changed, or to bring these people up on charges for violating your 14th Amendment rights, as you said, because that is the process. But we to say, how do we apply it to ourselves? And I'd like to ask the brother too, who mentioned, I don't want to keep him too much longer because I know your show is short, but the brother who talked about being able to fight against the Seventh Circuit, did you have an attorney? I'm assuming you did.
No, I didn't.
You fought it on your own, which is amazing, and I applaud you for that, because that took a lot of work. Yeah, I know that personally,
and I did it from segregation.
Yeah,
I was incarcerated in segregation.
Makes the story almost close to impossible, and many people won't believe that. But this is exactly what I'm talking about: having to understand how do you access and then force the law to be applied to your situation. Because your rights should be able to be, as I say, recognized, respected, and then realized. And those three things, we have to be able to bring this system to a place where they understand each one of us has those rights. But the fear that is put in people to not challenge the system, because you know you're going to run into corruption. You know you're going to run into these judges who are biased.
So,
and then the network of them all the way through.
So,
right?
So I have
go ahead, bro. I'm sorry.
I have a suggestion. The chief judge here would be a good person to sit down with, and maybe get the community to have him come to a community meeting and have a discussion. I know he's very he has an open door policy. Numerous people have called him and met with him privately.
Well, let me say this about that, then I'm gonna go. And if he may be listening as people, but I just wrote the chief judge here now a complaint, and they sent it back to me telling me that he didn't have the authority, which I know he does. Right. So that in and of itself isn't, and this isn't something new for me. I've been writing a complaint. I wrote it to the prior chief judge and the one before that, when Maxine White was the chief judge. This is what I'm talking about. There's a network of corruption because these people don't want to stand up on the oath of office that they take.
Hey,
I
bro.
know who the chief judge is, bro. I'm sorry.
No
I
problem.
just had to put that out there. That process is corrupt.
Hey, what we want to do, we want to throw our information out there and, take our number and stuff down to reach out to us. And here's the problem we have. As an individual, we don't stand a chance. Like
Absolutely.
Brother David said early on, it's people power that changes the system. People power. It's about numbers. When we went to Madison, it was about 10 of us one year to talk to the legislator. They wouldn't even listen to it. They had their 8 interns, stop us at the door. That following year, we went 750 deep. Then they had to open up them doors because we had representative for every one of the legislators that was there. Right. So numbers makes a difference. Brother David said it straight out. We have to learn to use our people power. So here's my number, and definitely I want you to call, and I'll give you all the information insight we have on how we can collaborate. It's 414-567-1069.
And actually,
1069. And your name is?
Sylvester Jackson.
And he's actually located in our space at 4201 North 27th Street on the 7th floor. So come on over and
they called it the Maximus building.
The old Eden building.
The old Eden building, yeah.
And Brother Craig, I've shared your information with Brother David Morrell also. He's going to contact you.
All right. I look forward to it.
Thanks for calling in.
Shalom, family.
All right, peace and blessings.
You got another caller, 414-444-5250. That's 414-444-5250. Caller, good morning.
Go ahead, caller.
Good morning, and thank you for this topic. Very badly needed. And I like the way the gentleman said, call him. Don't put everything on the air. It's time for us to start moving and taking care of business. Going to these courtrooms. And when you hear somebody that's not doing what they need to do for the judges, sit in those courtrooms, have the documentation and the experience of sitting in here, knowing what you heard and saw. It makes a difference.
Well,
and when these judges go unchallenged, we need to start grooming young lawyers and some people that can get out there and start preparing them to run, and that no one should be going unchallenged in these judges. It's too easy. We can start solving our own problems. And that's right. How do you take a 10-year-old child, even if he has a high IQ? Book sense and common sense is two different things. I know some highly intelligent adults don't have an ounce of common sense and don't know how to communicate with other people.
Amen.
But when it comes to cold facts and doing analytical stuff, they can do it. But they don't put a human feeling into it. Has that young man asked for his mother? Has he shown any signs of what he's done? Mm-hmm. But very coldly, because he's been treated like a young man rather than a little boy. Little did she know, by sharing all that information, where the key was, how to go get the gun out, that it would turn on her one day. But we as parents need to make that difference. We need to get in groups. We need to start meeting, and we need not tell everything on the radio. So people that have information, get their numbers, get together, and let's start doing some things that we need to be doing. I think the way the country is and the situation that we're in right now, it's gonna make us get up and make a difference. And we don't want the ones that got a problem and they're confused and they don't know how to do it. We want the 5 that really want to get out there and work and shake it up. And let's get out and vote. Thank you for this conversation.
Go ahead. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll see you on the flip side.
You're listening to Wisconsin Voices, Be a Voice Radio. Follow us at BAWI Voice and learn more at wisconsinvoices.org.
Does politics make you feel like you're under attack? Are you tired of feeling hopeless with the current condition of your community? Well, it's time for you to be victorious. It's time to vote. Know your candidates, know who's on the ballot, and know what seats they are running for. Get involved and let's take back our community at the polls.
Wisconsin Voices 3 pillars: protecting democracy, teaching advocacy, building community.
Did you know that voter education includes women and men currently incarcerated? While they cannot vote, the fact is they have family and friends who can vote. Expo has been contacting these men and women with accurate information on who is eligible to vote. At Expo's People in Politics events, we engage our local communities in discussing important issues. We educate the people in our community on what unlock the vote means and how voter disenfranchisement disproportionately impacts people of color, excluding thousands of people in Wisconsin from voting. Expo has trainings on state budget process and how legislation is crafted and passed. For more information, please visit our website at expowisconsin.org. And remember, you have a right not to remain silent.
Please join Wisconsin Voices every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. We will be focusing on community partnerships, voter education, and long-term collective impact for all Wisconsinites.
WNOV 860 and W293CX 106.5 Milwaukee.
Hey, welcome back. Some pretty intensive conversations we're having, some much needed conversations that we could need to continue in the community and across this state. So I did want to follow up to that one young lady that she made a valid point, important point, that anybody could observe, court, and document and be that. And that's the way you hold people accountable: observe, track, and document. This is, as we were talking earlier, it's going to take a village. It's going to take people coming, uniting together, and not working separately, but working together to address these huge disparities that we have across the state in our judicial system.
What if, right? Just imagine, what if every grassroots organization in Milwaukee focused for 1 year on mental health? If every organization here in Milwaukee focused for a year on mental health. Then the next year, every organization focused on education. What if the third year, every organization started teaching young men and women business, financial literacy, right? Everything doesn't have to come out of MPS. Correct. We keep putting an indictment on MPS when really the indictment is on us as a community and as a family.
That's it.
Right.
But so here's something, right? All these organizations and everybody listening to us, I want y'all to start putting pressure on every organization talking about they doing something. Ask them who you working with. You can't do it by yourself. Obviously, the crime rate still goes up. The murder rate still goes up. Amen. The kids are still getting younger.
Still
so
dying.
Independently, every organization is failing. Independently. So why don't we all come together? Excuse my language. I'm sorry. Forget the money, right? Because everybody doing stuff for money. Forget the money. If we really care, why don't everybody come together?
That's it.
Everybody.
That's the answer.
Wisdom's at the table. The NAACP is at the table. Milwaukee Bread's at the table.
Milwaukee Milwaukee Believer for Change is at the table.
And Wisconsin Voice is at the table. So
we here.
Right. And we all got to show up.
And we want to partner with whoever is serious about fixing Milwaukee.
That's it.
Fixing some of the problems in Milwaukee. It's a big problem. None of us can do it. It's not going to happen overnight. But if we all came together and focused, I guarantee we can do a lot better.
Well, like we were talking over break, you know, the statement I make, and I've talked to partners trying to get them at the table, people to address this issue. When we don't work together, we're hurting our communities.
That's it.
We're not helping our communities. We're hurting them. Because when you work in silos, you're taking away voices.
That's it.
You're taking away power. You know, so we need to get, you know, this is not, we're not working on a separate island with each other. We need to be working together because we're all there to try making an impact and making a change. And that's what we need to do.
Amen. Wisdom, excuse me, real quick. To this end, though, not only for this 10-year-old who's now 12, I believe, child, Wisdom has this thing called SIP, Supporters of Incarcerated People. And we meet on the 2nd and 4th Fridays of every month. And we're trying to put together a coalition of organizations, community leaders, pastors, everybody to try to not only fight the situation going on with this young boy, but every situation where marginalized people are being treated unfairly by the criminal justice system. And we need help. Anybody who has family members and loved ones incarcerated and you're supporting them, we're here to support you. We're here to support you. But in it all, we're here to support this community. And we need everybody's help. We need everybody's help. And I believe we can see a real change if we all came together. Enough of the talk. It's time to do, people.
It's time for action. It's time to come up with a plan and implement that plan and work together to address these concerns. I mean, that's what we need to do. We need to come to the table together.
You know, one of the things that the caller had mentioned that stands out in that word fear, you know, it's just heart-wrenching to see, especially our churches. And I definitely want to address the churches in our community because I'm a man of faith. I'm an ordained minister, and I believe in God way or no way. When we look at the peoples that come from the streets, the gang, we wasn't afraid to go wherever we wanted to go to buy drugs, to get our fix, to get our alcohol, to sneak in and behind the door with people we ain't had no business sleeping with. We wasn't afraid. But now when it's time to do something that we can do to save lives, now we're afraid to come out in the community. If we don't come out here and change what's going on, it won't change. And it started, remember, the churches used to be the backbone of our community. That used to be where we galvanized and met and come up with plans and strategies to attack. We need our churches to step up. You know, not just sit in the churches every week. Now, here's something I want to imagine, just like he said, we just imagine every church in this city has 5 to 10 members that's willing to commit to what Brother David is saying, to what we're saying in this on the radio right now, to come together and create this coalition to do something to make changes. What kind of sweeping changes we can make in this city? All it takes is a few. Instead, we're having these churches every Sunday, the same faces, the same sermon, preaching, but ain't nobody coming at them buildings doing nothing in our community. And we asking y'all to step up. Be the messenger God called you to be. The souls is out here in the street that need to be delivered. Send your peoples out here to help us help our community.
And also, we want youth to be part of this.
Definitely.
The youth have to be part of this because this is their fight, and they know solutions. They have ideas, and if we don't bring them to the table, we're going to make the situation worse. So I just want to put it out there for everybody. If you're interested in being part of a broader team and family to address these challenges and issues, reach out to any one of us. I mean, I am very grateful and honored that the guests we have here today are very powerful speakers and really have a commitment to social justice, and that's what we're all here for. So thank you for being on.
Well, and before you go, I'd like to offer this because, partnering now, my organization, the Village Group, partnering now with Wisconsin Voices, meeting Sylvester Jackson and Believers in Change, and working previously with 414 Life in Compton, Mr. Price, David Morrell, always supporting you. I offered a safe social space this summer.
Okay.
Definitely, Mr. Price has been around to see, what we do when we bring neighborhood together.
Okay.
It's more of a focus of family and village and a recreation of village. And I see this powerful group right here of executors.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And as we do our daily planning this summer, I want y'all to feel free to bring some of this out to the neighborhood because you know what's in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And sometimes we wait for folks to come to us.
Mm-hmm.
We need to go to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want y'all to know that Atkinson and Atkinson Park definitely this summer is a space where we definitely need you all for everybody and all that you speak of. Go ahead, Dave.
I just want to say something real quick too. When I brought up WayJ as Wisconsin Alliance for Youth Justice, and we're trying to get a bill so that there's no disparities for young Black and brown kids being waived and receiving life sentences. We're trying to get this bill passed. So outside of me doing my job at 414 Life, I also belong to an organization, you know what I'm saying, where we fighting against all disparities in the city of trying to change the law and get a bill passed so that we don't kids don't receive extreme and lengthy sentences.
And real quick, the little boy goes to court April 29th at 1:30 and April 30th at 8:30, 9 o'clock. 8:30 or 9 o'clock, I'm not sure. If you come on the 29th, we'll have the exact date for the 30th. But come on now, we need support so that this boy can be tried as a juvenile and get the help he needs and not victimized and further served. At the Bell Phillips Center, the old Children's Court, Water Plank Road. That's when April 29th and April 30th. 1:30. April 29th, the hearing is at 1:30, and April 30th is either 8:30 or 9. I'm not sure, but get there early. But we want as much support as we can. We want them to know that little Black boy is loved, and he has support. And that's the word I want to end with: love. Love somebody today, please. Love your people.
That's it.
And that is Wisconsin Voices, Be a Voice. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the flip side on Friday.
WNOV 860 and W293CX 106.5 Milwaukee. The views and opinions expressed on this show do not reflect that of the staff and management of WNOV and W293CX 106.5 FM Courier Communications Milwaukee, but are the sole comments of the host and guest of this particular show.
Join the growing chorus of voices demanding accountability in Jordan Neely's death, drawing attention to two other men who appeared to have played a role in